Good evening. Welcome to the Farming Podcast brought to you by Private Property. My name is Mbali Nwoko, your host every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting the podcast as usual. And like I always say at the beginning of the show, please like, share, and comment. We have fantastic guests every single week that are here to share their stories, that are here to educate and inspire you throughout your farming journey. And if you have any questions for our guests on the show, especially for our guest tonight, please feel free to comment because we love engagement. And so I just want to get straight into it and introduce our guest. It's going to be a fantastic conversation because he's a first-generation farmer. So, it would be lovely to hear all the lessons and the journeys that he's gone through in the many years that he's been farming. He has a family-run farm. And so it will be interesting to also know how he's managing this business with his family members. Doing business with families might not be very easy for many of us, but he seems to get the formula right. And our guest this evening is Jason Cullen, the owner and co-founder of Organico. If you don't know of Organico, please follow them on Instagram. They've got a lovely, lovely page. And I'm quite excited to hear about their story. And our topic for this evening is organic food markets. Jason, thank you so much for coming on to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Doing very well, thank you, and looking forward to this evening.
Likewise, thank you. So tell us about Organico. You've got a beautiful story. First generation farmer, you didn't know what you were doing. What made you decide to go into farming?
It's a very good story and a very good question. Thank you for asking. So yes, we are a family-run farm, and the history goes, and this is the genuine story, the property that we own here has been in the family for 30 years, but it was fallow land, a little veld with grass growing all over. And I tell people, we were having a family discussion one night saying, what should we do with the property? We wanted a change of lifestyle as a new young family as well. And either geniusly or stupidly, someone said, hey, should we farm? And clearly the glass of wine was good. And we said, yeah, why not? How difficult could it be? And so we started farming, and we brainstormed, like, what should we farm? None of us have done it in our lives ever. My wife and I previously had a pot plant that died every year, and that was the extent of our farming. And then we brainstormed and said, okay, what's good market? What's a high value crop? Everything, all the questions that farmers have. And we finally, it was a toss up between pecan nuts and pomegranates. And again, geniusly or stupidly, I'm not too sure, we said, let's go for pomegranates, and not knowing what that entails. But then we also, as a good business, like anyone, said, well, how do we be different? There are many brilliant genius farmers out there, and there's quite a big pomegranate farming community in Cape Town, massive. We're actually quite small. So to those that don't know, we a 5-hectare farm. So to most farmers, that is just a plot. That's nothing. That's not farming, But for us, that's huge, and it's something, daunting. So we said, let's be different and let's do organic farming, which at the time, obviously, we don't know what that means either. We just thought, okay, let's try that. No one's doing certified organic pomegranate farming. So let's go for that, So we went for it, and we call ourselves Google farmers because we Google everything. So how to plant a tree, what compost does a tree need? And to those of you and your listeners out there, sometimes Google is amazing and sometimes Google gets it wrong because it doesn't know South Africa and it doesn't know Gauteng. And, so you make those mistakes as you go along the way. And then maybe just to give you our side thing, why we did organic, not only from a business being different perspective, but my wife and I, to learn farming, went to go visit other farmers. And it struck us that when we went to go visit farms, sometimes the farmers would say, listen, you can't come now because we're busy spraying and it's quite toxic, the food. And we don't, not to say we disrespect farmers that use chemicals, because we respect every farmer. Any person that's in food production, we salute you because everyone needs food, so thank you to all farmers that make food. But it did strike us to say, wow, this food that's going to Woolworths and Pick and Pay and Checkers, whoever, it doesn't matter. That food at that very specific time was very toxic, and you couldn't even walk the fields, And we met peach farmers that spent 100,000 Rand a month on chemicals that was going to a Woolworths or a Pick and Pay. And we at the time were starting to get children. My wife was pregnant, and we said, can you imagine? And we'd ask farmers, do you eat your own produce? It sounds like a silly question, but it was a good question to ask. And a lot of them said, they were hesitant, and they said, sure, but we actually have our own veggie patch, or we have our own trees that we'd feed our family, because no one, quite frankly, wants to spray crops. It's a necessity in certain instances, but it's something that we're forced into, So, and we just made the decision, let's not. It's going to be tough. It's insanely hard to do, but we did it, and that's why we started organic farming. So if we take anyone on tour, any kids are around, it doesn't make a difference. They can pick whatever they want, whenever they want, and they can eat it. And that's how the organic, we're not the tree huggers, we're not save the whale people. I think those people that are just logical farmers, like, does it make sense or doesn't it? And that's how we honestly approach our farming mythology. That's it,
Yeah. Jason, as you're talking, I could just definitely relate about you saying you're Google farmers. And it's very true. The information on the internet can be quite overwhelming sometimes. But I like how you are so resourceful. And sorry. I like how you're so resourceful, and the story around organic farming, right? So you visited a couple of farmers. You saw that they're using conventional farming practices. Now, tell us about when you just started. So I'm going to take you a few years back, maybe the first or second season of planting and harvesting. What challenges did you encounter when starting to grow pomegranates? And then again, Gauteng weather can be quite harsh. We either have very, very hot summers, very, very rainy days, especially around November till February as well. And hail is another factor. And I'm sure a pomegranate tree needs special attention. Now, how did you manage with, fighting off pests and diseases when you've had or experienced very harsh climates, and still maintain a good harvest at the end of the day?
Yeah. Well, do we still maintain the best peak harvest, to give you our honest opinion? No, we're still learning as we go. So we're not optimal yet. And how did we manage early in the day? And in fact, 11 years on, it's still the same principle. Every year, season and year, we're still encountering new and interesting things. That's what I tell people about farmers. As ignorant farmers or getting into farming, I used to think farmers just sat back and watched crop, and what an easy job that was, but quite frankly, farmers, every business in South Africa and the world fights economics, and they fight political. But the one thing that some businesses don't fight is weather. And farmers fight all economic, all political, and they fight weather. It's one of the hardest businesses quite frankly, I've ever encountered. But how do we fight it on a daily basis? I think for us as a farm, we go to nature, because quite frankly, a forest, as an example, is one of the prime examples of a farm. It survives without man. It produces hundreds of tons of food every day. There's no one tilling it. There's no one maintaining it. It produces food, and your great-great-great-great-grandfather used to rely on nature to produce a crop. He never had Google. He never had pesticide. And if he didn't produce something, he would die. And I think that's what we're trying to observe. So right from the start, to answer your question, we just started observing nature. And if we had a pest problem, we said, like, as an example, oh no, aphids are attacking us. Okay, well, we could spray a chemical and it'll solve our problems in a day, but then we'd be dependent on that chemical for the rest of our lives. Or what eats aphids? Like, is there something out there that eats aphids? And would you know it? A ladybug eats aphids. Beautiful creatures. Like I tell people, a workforce that works 7 days a week. They've never once come to us for a raise. They've never rioted before. They're beautiful. And quite frankly, they work for free. And so we said, okay, and a ladybug eats aphids. We've got an aphid problem. What should we do? And we plant things that attract ladybirds who eat our aphids, which means eventually, years down the line, we don't have an aphid problem, So that's been our approach from day one all the way through 11 years later. Have we got it sorted now after 11 years? No, not even close. We're still learning. We still get new problems. The weather's changing. Hail, we've had to put up hail nets. And ingeniously, I'd say, fortunately, pomegranates are very hardy trees. They are actually cultivated in the desert in Israel and Egypt. If you go visit their farms, it's rocks, sand, and this tree in the middle of this desert. So in theory, which will happen, South Africa goes through a massive drought, we might still be standing, which is amazing. But then on the flip side, as of 2 years ago, we just said, farming one thing only, nature doesn't farm that way. Again, observing nature, how does nature do it? How does a forest do it? A forest doesn't produce one crop only. We don't wear the same clothes every day, and we eat different food every day, and your great-great-grandfather had multiple crops to help his family survive. So we in the transformation of farming our food forest, which just means mimicking nature. So we're not uprooting our pomegranates, we still keep those, but we have 30 or 40 different crops growing between our pomegranates that contribute either to our pest control or an income for a farm or helping the soil. As an example, right now we're about to harvest our sugar snap peas. That is a income for us as a farm because our pomegranates are sleeping. It's a nitrogen fixer for our soil and a mulch covering our soil as well for a mulch. So that one crop by itself is helping us earn an income and survive as a farm, well, with the added benefit of multiple crops, which is incredible, But we've still got a long way to learn,
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Jason, what does it take to be a certified organic farm? A lot of people say, I'm farming, but my produce is organic. And, when you ask, oh, are you certified? They'd say no. Some people just say it's organic because we don't use pesticides or whatever the case is. But what does it take to be a certified organic farm? What does that process involve?
Yeah, well, so to answer address the first issue, we love all organic farms. So whether they're certified or not, the person that's growing their little veggie patch on their windowsill is organic. Well done for you, and you are an organic farm. The only difference between certified is, unfortunately, some people do say I am an organic farm, and then when you ask them, okay, how do you combat your aphids, they might say, well, I use Sunlight Liquid and this spray. Well, that's it's a chemical, and can humans eat Sunlight Liquid? No, they can't. You'll get very sick. So what we do, and it's expensive, and I wish I didn't have to do it, and some days I do wish that farms had to prove that they had to be certified chemical farmers, and organic farmers just had no regulation. Because that's natural, but anyway, that's how the world works. So we basically prove to our consumers, we have an outside firm that we pay, and unfortunately it's about 20,000 Rand, and which is very expensive for a farm. As you know, your margins are very low. and they're a French company. So the one we use is EcoCert. So Woolworths uses EcoCert, many retailers use EcoCert. It's French. They'll come and they'll take a soil sample, they'll take a leaf sample, they'll take a fruit sample, take it away. We don't know which tree they're going to take from or anything like that. They'll inspect it, they'll analyze it, and if any chemical residue is found, we lose our certification for that year, which is hectic, but as a farm, that's just us saying to our consumers, listen here, don't take our word that we are organic. We'd like to let our consumers think we're organic, but don't take our word. We pay another company that is not, we're not affiliated to, that will say, we're coming to inspect you. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and if you don't have it right, that's it, we take away your certification. And it stems from lots of things, even what fertilizer are you using? Is it an organic source? If you get manure from a chicken coop, as an example, and want to put it in the farm, well, what are the chickens eating? It's quite a process, and it's quite a thing you have to look down. So people might say, oh, I'm just getting chicken manure and it's organic. That's awesome, I love that. But maybe they're being fed very hectic antibiotics, and that's going into your soil. That's not a good regenerative culture, because your great-grandfather didn't do that, and he was the best farmer, to me.
Yeah, definitely some food for thought. It sounds like organic is quite a process. It's not very easy. There's a lot of things that you have to ensure that, you're doing a thorough job to obviously be bold and go out to your clients and say, we're organic. Let's talk about the fresh produce market, this organic space. How big or small is the organic market, particularly in South Africa? You've been farming for 11 years. Your farm is certified organic, and you have a pomegranate crop, which is your main specialty crop. So, what does the fresh produce market specifically around your specialty crop look like? Is there a huge demand? Again, we've been living in a global pandemic for almost 2 years now, and by virtue of being a farmer, we saw like the food prices drop in certain commodities and other commodities increased, So where are you selling the pomegranate? Is it local market or export market? And how does the demand for pomegranate look like in South Africa and maybe abroad?
Okay, so with regards to, let's say, organic sector first, it's very niche, very small. Most people think organic is just a good excuse to charge more money for a title. And I get why they say it. I get it. I'm not adverse to that, why they say it, which is such a pity, because it's, organic actually shouldn't be more expensive. It should be equal to conventional, because we save money in certain things and then and have difficulties in other things. So to me, a consumer should have a choice, and organic should be exactly the same price. Point number one. Two, organic is very niche. No one knows what it's about. We have great pictures, beautiful pictures of farmers holding their beautiful chickens with a sun behind them, and to us as a consumer, that's organic and it's beautiful. And sure, that's how it is, but it is a marketing ploy, which is so sad. So the market is very niche. Always, when people ask us who is the market, it's the consumer that asks, where does my food come from? Okay. When I pick up that milk, when I pick up that veg, when I pick up the whatever, I read the back label. That consumer generally is our client. They become more aware, especially during COVID. And then the very sad thing to say is the second consumer we have that demands our food is the sick, okay? The cancer patients, the moms and parents that have ADHD kids and saying, why is my kid like this? Or why is cancer no longer a old person's disease? And then the quite frank matter is what we put into our bodies is affecting us, without a doubt. What we eat is affecting us. So people asking, where does my food come from and how does that farm is becoming more and more popular, but obviously it's very niche, very, very niche. I don't know stats. You probably have a better idea than I do. South Africa's who are the wealthy in South Africa? Maybe it's 0.001%. And of those percentage, what do they know about organic farming? 0.00001% of that. So it's very small. But the worldwide, which South Africa will get to eventually, I do think people are saying, hey man, read the label and I don't believe you anymore. And what is this weird thing that comes in my pomegranate cup? What is this funny technical term? And organic food should just be, this is pomegranate, the end. This is 100% honey, the end. It's not infused with glucose and all sorts of weird stuff that we get, Or what is the level of poison that's allowed to be on this, acceptable levels? What is all that? Your grandfather never had that, So your first question was, it's very niche. Who's our target market? So who do we supply? At the moment, very niche organic places like the Jacksons in Sandton, Farm Table in London. We have people that buy directly from us because we're small enough. And then the big guys that we supply, like Food Lovers, we've supplied Checkers before. We're in the talks of Woolworths. The downside, organic, no one cares. So we've mixed our organic certified gooseberries with conventional gooseberries and sold it at Checkers. And unfortunately, the consumer's none the wiser, which is devastating because we put so much hard work into it. But what can we do, And then we've exported quite a bit to Dubai in the organic sector, But the Netherlands is like the European market is a big market for organic. But we're just such a small farm. They say, please, can you send a container a week to the Netherlands? And we're saying, you do realize we could probably supply you 2 containers for the year, and that's what makes it so hard. But we'll get there. I think we just have to work a lot harder than huge farms, But I think farming, the trend now is building a community around the farm. Usually you had the farm and the community builds itself around it, and aunts and uncles and everyone lived around this farm. And right now, where we are in the world, there's huge complexes that are built around malls. I wonder, it'll be interesting to see one day it might shift that the malls, and you can see it in the States, are starting to be more empty. And people are starting to connect back to what's real, actually, at the end of the day. And maybe they'll be building around farms, who knows?
Yeah. Before I ask my next question, Jason, we've got a comment here from Sibongile Zanele Ngomonde, and she says, thank you for this information. I'm learning a lot. I like the idea of finding natural solutions to controlling bugs. So that's the comment from Sibongile here. And so based on what you said with the various markets, etc., what made you decide as Ganico to open up your farm to the public for people to come, have a wedding venue and various different activities and picking organic pomegranates? What made you decide to open your farm to the public and for people to have various experiences within Ganico, which is a great idea, just by the way.
Thank you. You know what? We're jealous of the Cape Townians, to be honest. Cape Townians have these beautiful wine farms. They go visit, they learn about farming. And Joburgers, Joburgers are such beautiful people. We're such a dynamic crowd, and we bring so much to Cape Town and Durban, even though they hate us for it. And Joburgers want something. They want something different. Yes, we've got the malls. Yes, we've got nice restaurants, but we crave experiences. And my wife and myself said, what do we want at the end of the day? And we wanted to visit cool farms and have experiences, not just sit at a mall, not just sit at a normal restaurant. So we, again, either geniusly or stupidly, because it's hard work, we now and again have pop-ups on our farm. And it's partly marketing to say, this is what organic farming is all about. And now you get to learn and bring kids along and see where your food comes in. And at the same time, for Joburg just to have a Cape Town wine farm that they can actually visit, even though we don't do wine, but to visit a farm, because I've tried. How many farms do we as Joburgers have access to? Maybe 2 or 3 that I've researched. That's it. It's tragic. It's really tragic. And we as adults and as kids want to learn. It's amazing. I'll take people on tours, and they said, "Oh, yeah, in my culture, I used to, cut the chicken, and I'd make chicken, pluck off the chicken," and I've never done that myself. But now when they take their kids on tour, they're petrified of chickens because they've never seen a chicken before, which is crazy, and we've never obviously done that before either, and our kids never have. But now we have that opportunity because we're farmers. So that's why we open it. We right 20 minutes from Fourways. Why not? Let's be an open farm, a working farm that people can see, and then obviously, to try and make money as a farm, because as you know yourself as a farmer, you need to do so many things. Well, when our farming is quiet, well, let's have weddings, and let's have photographers, and let's have school groups. We need to make money, because it's very difficult to make money off farming. It's a tough business, but you need to work hard,
How has the reception been from the public? I love what you're saying about Joburgers wanting to visit farms, and there's obviously a tourism element to it. How's the reception from the public been when they literally come onto Organico and start picking the pomegranates themselves? That's an open market. It's a fresh produce market. You're controlling your environment. What's the feedback from people? Are they saying this is amazing? Are they asking questions about how this tree is grown? For how long does it last? Just share us some insights.
It's mind-blowing, to be honest, and for 2 reasons. One, people are so in awe and never knew that in Joburg stuff like this happens. 1. 2, selfishly, we learn more from other people than we are teaching them, ironically. So as an example, people will be like, "Hey man, wow, thank you for that information. Did you know that this weed growing here right next to your tree is actually edible?" I'll be like, "Really? I didn't know that." And they'll be like, "Hey, I've got a friend of mine who actually does processing. Do you mind if I connect you?" Thank you for connecting us. So we need people, and people need farms, and we're a team. So everyone that visits us is one of our team members, and vice versa. We imparting knowledge about farming, but they imparting knowledge to us, because we cannot know everything. It's impossible. But, you might visit our farm and say, "My grandfather taught me this very cool technique." And I'll be like, "That is incredible. And do you mind if I show you this technique that we're using?" And you're like, "That is insane. I never knew that." So the response is mind-blowing from both sides, which we love. We really love that. So in a selfish way, we're inviting people to come on tour because we're actually learning from other people, But to see kids who, and my kids included, are Netflix bound and social media bound, and it's not healthy. We can see it from a mile away. To see kids climbing a tree and digging stuff out of the soil and then eating it from the ground, that generally they hate veggies, but now they're just eating it. I love that. It brings a special warmth to my heart, and I wish everyone could do it. I wish farming wasn't a privilege, that you had to own land and stuff. I wish all of us could have that opportunity, because it's what we're meant to do. We all eat food. Yeah. That's one thing we have in common,
Yeah, I definitely agree. And at the end of the day, also, farming has to be a business, and not everybody, is entrepreneurial or has an entrepreneurial mindset or can withstand the challenges that exist in farming, because very true in what you've said. Farmers have to battle economic challenges as well as climate challenges, and climate can definitely make or break your business. I just want to ask you the last question before we bid farewell to you. There's that whole concept or myth about if you're farming organic products, you can charge a premium. And I think you touched on a bit about it. So is that true? If you're certified organic, can you charge a premium? And if I was farming pomegranates, but from a conventional point of view, would your product fetch a higher price at the market?
No. And so as a farmer, No, we charge exactly the same. So our buyers, our retailers would say, listen, I buy pomegranates for X, please match the price, the end. Do the retailers push it up by a rand or 2 or 10? Yes, they would. That's not a farmer's issue, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. I guess everyone has a part to play, but no. And as an organic farmer, I firmly stand by the point of I don't think it's right to charge more money for organic farming. Remember, organic farming is a healthy thing. It's not a privileged thing. So I don't see why people need to pay more for something that's just healthy. It doesn't make sense, And the fact that it's a warped sense because it's something we all did before World War One. All of us farmed organically. There was no organic or conventional or not. There was no such thing. So I don't see why it should be charged. So yes, it is a stigma. It's a terrible, terrible stigma. But believe me, in Europe and now coming into South Africa, one day you will be walking into a market and you will see organic and you will see conventional and it will be labeled as such and the price will be the exact same. You just have a choice. And I know hands down what the consumer will choose, which is awesome, which means I'm hoping that we all learn to farm in a more sustainable, organic, there'll be new terms, regenerative, biodynamic method, whatever new term comes in, basically just farming with nature. How do we farm with nature and sell it is the bottom.
Yeah. Jason, where can people find you? What do you have any upcoming events? It's a new season now. Everybody's happy. It's spring, So where can people find you? Do you have any upcoming events? Please share.
Thank you. Yes. Next month. So yes, we're into our spring season, which is amazing. Constantly on Organico. So we have our website, organico.co.za. We're very active on Instagram. Hello Organico is our Instagram handle. Hello Organico on Twitter. Hello Organico on Facebook. We launch events all the time. So I generally don't give it out because it happens all the time. So you just have to follow us. We're doing next month will be a garden day, flower crowns, how to make flower crowns, how to plant different things. We do anything and everything that's interesting. We've done whiskey tasting events that work through our orchard and how it works. We're working with wine farmers, as you know, we're jealous of Cape Town, wine farmers, and broadcasting it here on this farm. So we don't want to just sit at a restaurant. You're sitting in our orchards, sipping that glass of wine, talking about the wine process and the farming behind wine. Anything and everything to obviously the wedding, private events that we host and things like that. So definitely, if you can, please follow us. We just say it's our adventures in life and farming. That is our key. That's what we do, life and farming. We have kids, we have family. It's actually my wife that's the true hero of the farmer. I'm just the talker, but my wife is the actual true heroine of this story. She's the mom, she's the farmer. She just gets everyone together. I'm just in the marketing side, but it's a good team. As you know, farming is a teamwork. So that's where everyone can find us. If you can follow us, and we can't wait to see new and interesting, dynamic people visiting us so that we can learn from you.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Jason, for your time this evening. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I've definitely followed back. I'll be looking out for your calendar and events, and we'll definitely pop up, whether it's this month or next. Thank you for sharing some insights and educating us about organic farming and your processes within Organico.
Thank you. And thank you for your interest. And thank you to all the people that support you and listen in. Because if it wasn't for you guys, where would we be? Because we're a team. Thank you.
That is awesome. We were just speaking to Jason Cullen, owner and co-founder of Organico. Follow them on Instagram, hello@Organico, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They have a beautiful pomegranate farm, organic farm that is, and many, many different activities that you could do at his farm because it's open to the public. Please support the business as well. When you go to Organico, buy some fresh produce, homegrown, locally cultivated, and it's organic. So if you missed our conversation tonight, please go onto our YouTube channel under the Farming Podcast playlist in the Private Property channel, and be sure to catch this episode. Drop comments if you may, and we will be happy to respond, and reach out to Jason if you have any questions. But that's it from me tonight. Thank you so much. The Private Property team loves you. I bid you a fantastic Friday and a very awesome weekend. Take care.